Going to Kansas City. Kansas City, here they come.
Mahomes firing for the end zone, wide open, caught, touchdown! Mahomes crosser, Kelsey, 30-yard line, Kelsey out of bounds at the San Francisco 10-yard line. Mahomes keeps it at the 40, slides to a stop at the 42-yard line. Mahomes is going to run at 30-yard line, 25-20, and down to the 13-yard line. Play action fake, right side throw, touchdown!
I'm going to celebrate tonight. I'm going to celebrate at the parade, and then I'm going to do whatever I can to be back in this game next year, trying to go for that three-peat.
Let's go. ESPN Analytics has released their Football Power Index for the 2024 season. And indeed, they are predicting a Super Bowl rematch between the 49ers and the Kansas City Chiefs, given those two teams have the highest chance to make it to the big game. But stay tuned, because coming up on NFL Live, we will reveal the teams that have the best chance to actually knock off the Chiefs and the Niners. As we welcome you to NFL Live on this Thursday, Hannah Storm, along with Mina Kimes, Damian Whitty, and Mike Tannenbaum. Guys, let's start with another receiver getting paid. Show me the money. The Dolphins' Jaylen Waddle will be waddling all the way to the bank this season, signing a 3-year, $84.5 million contract extension, putting him among the top 5 receivers in terms of annual income, alongside his Miami running mate Tyreek Hill. Waddle coming off 3 straight 1,000-yard seasons, just the latest in a group of wide receivers to get paid this offseason. His new contract will pay him $76 million in guaranteed money, third most for a wide receiver in NFL history, trailing only A.J. Brown and Amon-Ra St. Brown, who also agreed to their deals in the offseason. So let's start with our resident GM here, shall we? Mike, Justin Jefferson expected to set a new bar, obviously, when it comes to receivers. What do these recent contracts tell you about what he's looking for in terms of guaranteed dollars and when he gets those dollars?
Hannah, I think Justin Jefferson is going to be the first $100 million fully guaranteed wide receiver in the NFL, and it should come literally any day if I was the Vikings, and here's why. As that graphic shown, we've seen this receiver market just continue to go up and up. I think Jaylen Waddle sort of fortifies that $28 to $32 million range that we've seen with A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Devontae Adams, but you could certainly make an argument that Justin Jefferson is the best receiver in the NFL. And when Kirk Cousins decided to leave Minnesota to go to Atlanta, they should have just gotten the deal done. It's only getting more expensive. He's absolutely indispensable to their future. So to me, there's a sense of urgency, and I do think he goes over $100 million in guaranteed dollars.
Ooh. Mike's absolutely right. Seeing those contracts, it makes me think about the Eagles and how smart they look getting those deals done quickly, because as Mike said, the longer you wait, the higher the price tag goes up, especially when that wide receiver we're discussing is Justin Jefferson. You do not need me to explain why he deserves all of that money. Anyone with working eyes can see how good he is, how complete he is. Arguably, I think he is the best receiver in the NFL. But what I think is notable about him and his value to Minnesota in particular is what he does for a young quarterback. A young quarterback, by the way, who is not being paid a lot of money, which of course clears up even more cap space for Justin Jefferson. But thinking about J.J. McCarthy throwing to him, I remember that famous quote from Joe Burrow, F it, Jamar's down there somewhere, which it's funny, but it actually is, I think, very telling of how significant Chase was to him in terms of having a target who you know will win down the field, and how that encourages aggression and confidence in your young quarterback. Jefferson would have the same effect on J.J. McCarthy because he had that same effect on Kirk Cousins. I saw Kirk Cousins become a more aggressive quarterback during his time in Minnesota because he trusted that Jamar was down there somewhere. So he is extremely important to the development of J.J. McCarthy. Minnesota knows this. For them, it's just about getting this deal done in a way that satisfies the best receiver in the NFL.
JJ to JJ. Okay, we will see when that happens. Meanwhile, Mina, you let us right into it. Jamar Chase in Cincinnati. He's definitely going to be watching this Jefferson deal if he does not sign first. Maybe he should sit back and wait. Mike, what do you think about the Bengals front office and how they should approach this, also knowing, of course, that T. Higgins has asked for a trade?
Yeah, what's clear to me, Hannah, is they're going to look at T. Higgins on a one-year deal. They drafted Jermaine Burton. I would assume in a year they will let T. Higgins graduate, and hopefully Burton starts for them. And similar to what we just talked about with Justin Jefferson, this is easy if I'm Jamar Chase. Let my teammate do all the hard work from LSU, and I'll just come in and 5% more than what he got, and I'll take that. And Jamar Chase just absolutely cannot leave Cincinnati. Him and Joe Burrow are absolutely tied to the hip. So as Mina alluded to, this is a market that keeps going up and up and up. And if I'm Jamar Chase, time is on my side. And if I'm T. Higgins, I want to have a great year and presumably be playing for somebody else in 2025.
Yeah, Jamar Chase is in a great position right now because all he has to do is sit back and, like you said, Mike, just wait on his LSU teammate, Justin Jefferson, to come through and just leapfrog him by a little bit. And listen, the Bengals, they should have known a long time ago this was coming. They should have been budgeting for this type of move because we know that since Jamar Chase has stepped foot in the league, he's been one of the best wide receivers in the National Football League. We know T. Higgins is probably going to only be here for this one season in 2024, and then he's going to leave via free agency in the offseason. So this is easy. Like, if I'm Jamar Chase, I'm not taking any hometown discounts or anything like that. I'm going to look to become the highest paid receiver after Justin Jefferson signs his deal.
So another guy presumably sitting back and waiting to see what happens would be the Cowboys' CeeDee Lamb. Mike, do you see him from a GM standpoint in the same conversation as the two aforementioned receivers when it comes to a long-term deal?
I do. I think he's in the top 5. Look, he's similar to Jaylen Waddle, but somewhat different. I think he's a little bit more physical, third down, red zone, not as explosive, but the bottom line is this. Someone is going to see CeeDee Lamb as a number 1, Hannah. So even if Dallas says, hey, maybe he's not Justin Jefferson, maybe he's not Jamar Chase, it only takes one. And that's why, like, CeeDee Lamb, like a lot of these guys, is dealing from an immense position of strength. And if he gets through this season healthy, he will crush it in the offseason.
Yeah, CeeDee Lamb, I think, is one of the 5 or 6 best receivers in the NFL. He was first-team All-Pro in my vote. And I think while he doesn't have the rookie quarterback aspect that Justin Jefferson has in terms of leverage, he has a different kind of leverage from Jefferson and Chase at the moment, which is Dallas doesn't have a lot of depth behind him at wide receiver. He is unquestionably the number 1 in that offense. He is so important. Without him, I think you could argue even more than those other 2 receivers. Maybe you think they're better players in a vacuum, but on the team he is on, he is arguably more valuable.
Yeah, CeeDee Lamb had 16 more receptions than any other player in the NFL last season. And it's worth mentioning, going back to Waddle, that he has recorded at least 1,000 receiving yards in each of his first 3 seasons. He is one of 9 players in NFL history to accomplish that feat, and he's in some very impressive company, as you can see here. Waddle is also the first player in Dolphins history to record 1,000 receiving yards in 3 straight seasons. So, Mina, why does it make perfect sense for Miami in particular to invest in this player in particular?
You know, Hannah, there's a stat that I like to look at with receivers called yards per route run, which accounts for both efficiency and production. And Tyreek Hill was first last year. Jaylen Waddle was 6th, ahead of the likes of A.J. Brown and Amon-Ra St. Brown. And I think it's remarkable when you consider the fact that you have 2 receivers both ranking in the top 10 in that category, which to me is telling, because I do believe Waddle could be a number 1 receiver easily in other offenses, if not for Tyreek Hill. Miami clearly understands that, because I think this is quite team friendly. It's a 3-year deal. That means that Jaylen Waddle will not be very old when he gets his second bite at the apple. And I think that will align for him from a timeline perspective with Tyreek Hill if he's coming to the end of his career in Miami.
Well, there begs the question, Mike, should the Dolphins be expecting a call from Tyreek Hill's agent in the coming days now that his counterpart got paid?
Hannah, I'm sure that call has already happened. After this season, Tyreek Hill has no more guaranteed money. And when you have multiple years left on a deal where there's no guaranteed money, you certainly, from Tyreek Hill's perspective, have outplayed the contract. The market has changed considerably, as we've said. So this is like the perfect storm. This is a great problem to have for the Dolphins between Hill and Waddle. But if I'm Tyreek Hill, I want to go to the very top of the market on an average per year on a guaranteed basis. So I think that call probably has happened. And for their sake, hopefully it gets done before they get on the field for training
Yeah,
camp.
and this is the trend we're seeing is teams locking down at least their top 2 receivers with so much 11 personnel, 3 wides on the field. That's just the trend in the NFL. Now, who is going to throw these guys the football? Well, it's Tua Tagovailoa, presumably, but there's also questions about his future. He's on the 5th-year option of his rookie contract. So, Mikey T, walk us through this negotiation. Why is it a little bit tricky for both sides here?
Yeah, Hannah, this one's tricky. I think the average per year has to be somewhere around $52 million in that range, right around Jared Goff. But if I'm the Dolphins, I have to consider the fact that he was hurt in college. He's been hurt in the NFL, so on the guaranteed dollars, I'm going to have concerns. If I'm Tua, my response is, well, that may be true, but I played in 17 games a year ago when 66 quarterbacks started league-wide, and that's where this is going to be challenging to get done.
Yeah, listen, I agree with Mike in the fact that, listen, Tua, this is a tricky situation, contract situation for Tua in that, number one, first of all, he played all 17 games, which was the main question coming into last season was his durability. He showed that he could play a full slate of games. But also, for me, I always say you got to be careful paying good quarterbacks, franchise quarterback money, because it could come back to strap down your team if your quarterback is not the type of guy that can lift up the rest of the team in those critical moments.
All right, so I'm curious to see what you think about Dallas. The Cowboys, we all know they have been less than proactive regarding locking up Dak Prescott in the final year of his deal. Mikey T, what kind of bind are they in at this point? What should the Cowboys be doing?
Hannah, they're in a massive bind. They gave Dak Prescott a blank check. Let's just cut through it all. At the end of the season, they cannot franchise Dak Prescott. They did not draft his replacement. They have a really good team, and Dak was second in the league in MVP voting. So basically what you're saying to Dak is, what is it going to take to sign you? And I think he's going to blow away all records from an average per year and guaranteed basis.
Yeah, to Mike's point, the original sin here was letting Dak play out his contract, not getting a deal done the first time around, and now they're in a position where there really are 2 not great options. One is to, as he said, give Dak an enormous contract because of all his leverage. The other is to move on after this year, in which case you'll be in quarterback purgatory. My preference would probably be the overpay, just because I don't think they have any good options, partly of their own volition. But there are no easy choices for Dallas because of the decisions they made years ago.
Purgatory, not a good place to be. It's not heaven, it's not hell, but it's a little closer to hell. Jordan Love, coming off a great first season as the starter in Green Bay, could hit free agency next March. Mikey T, how are you handling that situation? What is your timetable? Are you running to get this deal done?
If I am with the Green Bay Packers, I certainly am from this standpoint. Hannah, if you and I were running a team and we could draft every player in the NFL, I think clearly Mahomes would probably be first. I'm hard-pressed to think there's a player we would go to before Jordan Love. He's that good, he's that young, and his upside is that compelling. I think he goes north of $60 million a year. And if I'm Jordan Love, Hannah, I am being incredibly patient. I'm going to bet on myself and play out this deal.
Wow. Jordan Love, then hearing Mike talk about drafting him second, my eyebrows raised. I am very high on them, to be clear. What we saw in the second half of last season, he was arguably the second or first best quarterback in football in just about every metric. And I think that's meaningful because not only was it his first full year as a starter, he was playing with a very young receiving group, and he consistently elevated the talent around him. It looks like it's very clear the Packers have done it again, and Jordan Love deserves all of the money in the world.
Mina, you're 25 years old, threw for over 4,100 yards, 32 touchdowns, just 11 picks, and he did not miss a game all season. All right, we're just getting started on NFL Live.